Are you after an electric car that isn't an SUV and isn't a Tesla? This could be the right car for you. It's the new Hyundai Ioniq 6, and it's what the brand calls an electrified streamliner. You can probably see why, because of the profile of this car. It's very, very streamlined. It's a sedan, and it's actually bigger than it looks. I'm going to tell you all about it in this review, and you'll be able to figure out whether it's the right car for you by the end of this video. So stick around. Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing so far. Please do join the community, have your say, and also hit like and subscribe, and let me know if you're enjoying what you're seeing and if there's anything else you'd like to see. Thanks. You know what's interesting about the Hyundai Ioniq 6 range? The most affordable version has the longest EV driving range. Most brands ask you to actually pay more for more range, but not here. I guess that's a nice point of difference. And that entry-level model, it's called Dynamic. It has a bunch of really good equipment too. There's standard Matrix LED headlights, you get 18-inch alloy wheels, you get twin 12.3-inch screens inside. There's also heated front seats and eco-processed leather, whatever that is. Step up about $10,000 to the mid-spec Technic model and you get all-wheel drive, you get much more power and torque, you get 20-inch wheels, a big sunroof, and also cooled front seats and heated rear seats. So you are getting a fair bit of value for money there. And then at the top of the range is the Epic model, and just like the Ioniq 5, it gets those digital mirrors, it gets a special clever heat pump, and it can also precondition the battery so that it's faster to charge at a fast charger. So you can tell me whether you think it's good value or not, but I think there's a fair bit of value in this model range. The obvious choice as an alternative to this car is the Tesla Model 3. It's the most popular electric sedan probably on the planet, definitely in Australia. And it does have a couple of options available too. So there's a long-range version which has more than 600 k's of range. It's slightly less than this long-range model, but it is still very, very impressive. And it's also got a performance model, which the Ioniq 6 doesn't have just yet. So the fast version of the Tesla Model 3 does 0 to 100 in 3.3 seconds, which is very, 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 very fast. Whereas the fastest version of the Ioniq 6 does it in 5.1, which is still fast, but not as fast. So if speed matters to you, then maybe the Model 3 would be a better choice for you. There's another sedan that you might want to check out if you're looking at an electric vehicle around this price point, maybe a little bit higher, the BMW i4. It looks like a regular 4 Series, but it's fully electric, and I think that's got some definite appeal there. It is a little bit expensive, but hey, you're getting a BMW badge, which you're not getting if you're buying a Hyundai. And then there's also the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Now, it's not an electric sedan, but it is very, very similar in a lot of ways to this car. You can hit the link at the top of your screen now to see my review on that car. I think it has a whole lot going for it, and it's probably going to be a more family-friendly option. So if you have a family, make sure you check it out. Despite the look of this car, it's actually a bigger vehicle than it appears. It's 4.8 meters long, actually more than 4.8. So that means it's almost as big as a Ford Falcon or Holden Commodore. Yeah. Doesn't look it, does it? That's partly because of this streamlined profile and the fact that it is super duper aero efficient. You'll see the coefficient of drag figure on your screen now. If that means nothing to you, just know that it's super duper aero efficient. Now, when it comes to the back end, oh, I love this look. It's very Porsche inspired, obviously, and it is a sedan. So let's take a look in the boot. Boot space in the Ioniq 6, well, it's a sedan, so it doesn't have a lift back like a hatch, and that means that you are limited in terms of the space available to you. It does have a pretty wide opening, 401 litres of cargo capacity, so it's not setting any new benchmarks, but it's not too bad. There's a tyre repair kit under the boot floor, no spare tyre. Most EVs don't come with a spare wheel, so if that matters to you, then maybe you shouldn't be buying an EV. There's also a front storage area under the bonnet of the Ioniq 6, and it's bigger in the rear-wheel drive version because there's no front motor to get in the way. It's still usable, you can still fit a charging cable in there, so it's pretty good space. It's got some really interesting design choices. Obviously, this is the top spec one, so it's got these mirror camera displays, I guess you'd call them. They're up at the edges of the dashboard, and it's designed to mimic the winglets on a plane. So that's kind of neat. I like that. I don't like those mirrors when it comes to actually driving with them, but yeah, you might be okay with it. Just depends what you appreciate when it comes to driving. When it comes to the other interior elements, you've got these big 12.3-inch screens. Obviously, this spec has a head-up display as well, so you've got all the information that you need. This one's a touch screen, so it's got your media controls and all that. Thankfully, there are still buttons and dials down below, so actually controlling the controls of the car isn't as difficult as it could be. Some other cars have everything through a touch screen, and that's really annoying. You do have to interact with the screen quite a bit because there's some safety stuff that you might want to switch off every single time you drive the car. But look, maybe you'll be okay with the beeps and bongs that this car often just has at you all the time. I don't love the gear selector. I think if you see my Ioniq 5 review, you'll notice that I've called it the phallus shifter. It's just a weird design. You have to twist it forwards to go into drive and backwards to go into reverse, which is the opposite of what you do when you naturally shift in an automatic car. But I guess this is a bit of a different type of car, right? When it comes to storage, there's heaps. There's these cup holders between the seats, wireless charger, USB port. So it's still USB connected Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There's no wireless. That might be a little bit annoying for some people. I know that I prefer wireless because it's just one less thing you have to think about when you're getting into the car. There's another massive storage tray underneath this bridge area too. And you'll also find your window controls here. So instead of having them on the doors, to make the doors a little bit thinner and a little bit more, I guess, streamlined in their profile, the controls for the windows are here. I guess that's kind of neat. There's a center console bin here with a couple of USB-C ports as well, and big door pockets too. So it's got all the storage stuff sorted. Oh, and the really nifty little storage drawer for the glove box. I love that. Now, let's check out the back seat. So back seat space in the Ioniq 6. I've got so much leg room. It's ridiculous. This seat is set for me. I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall. Yes, lots of knee room. That's a great thing. Not so much great toe room. My toes are underneath the seat in front, and I don't have that much wiggle room available. Headroom's also pretty limited too. So if you're a big person with big feet, it might not be the most comfortable backseat experience. But if you're a smaller occupant, like a child, it's going to be pretty good back here. There are ISOFIX points in the window seats, 3 top tether points as well. You've got rear seat air vents, you've got USB-C charge ports. There's some storage options available to you as well, some mesh map pockets on these hard-backed seat bits. They're good for stopping your kids from destroying the trim. They can kick that to their heart's content. There's storage in the doors as well, some bottle holders. It's not massive storage because the doors are very interestingly shaped and styled, and there's a flip down armrest with cup holders as well. So it's got all the stuff that you would expect. It's just maybe a little bit cramped because of this electrified streamline roofline. That makes sense. There are 2 different takes on the Ioniq 6 formula, but both have the same battery pack, and the entry-level version is rear-wheel drive with a single rear-mounted electric motor, and that allows it a pretty decent, well, in fact, it's class-leading electric driving range of 614 kilometers on the WLTP cycle. It doesn't have huge power and torque outputs, but if you want huge power and torque outputs, you need to buy one of these ones. This is the all-wheel drive version. It gets an extra motor at the front axle, and that allows it something in the region of 600 Newton meters of torque. So it's got plenty of grunt, and obviously it does have a slightly smaller driving range, but I don't think that's that big of an issue when you're still getting more than 500 k's of range out of this car. Okay, so charging when it comes to the Ioniq 6, there's the choice of AC or DC, as you would expect. AC is what you'll do at home, and you can do it up to 11 kilowatts, but most people have a wall box at home that's 7 kilowatts. You should be able to recharge the car from 10 to 100% in about 12 hours. It's a fairly long time, but it's a big battery pack. If you're going to a fast charger, it can do up to 350 kilowatt charging on DC, which is very, very quick. In fact, Hyundai reckons you'll do 10 to 80% in about 18 minutes. So yeah, it's as long as when you go to the servo and choose your ice cream, essentially. 350 kilowatt chargers are pretty rare, so if you find a 50 kilowatt charger, which you're probably more likely to, it'll take about an hour and a quarter to do 10 to 80%. So it's pretty quick when it comes to charging, and it's going to not waste your time too much, and obviously you can relax inside with those amazing seats if you are waiting for it. For the launch drive of the Hyundai Ioniq 6, the brand has taken us on a bunch of different country roads and twisty roads, which might not be what you do with your Ioniq 6, but it does, I guess, highlight the breadth of capability of this car, the fact that it does have a very long driving range, and you can, in theory, go out of your way to find a good road if that's what you want to do. I wouldn't say this is the sharpest driving tool though. It is fine, but it's not the best driving EV that I've driven. It's got okay steering, it's a little bit oddly weighted and has some sort of weird feel to the wheel as well. It does go through corners as you would expect, but it's just a bit disconnected feeling. And the ride, well, this is the base model car, the 18-inch wheel car, and these country roads do have a lot of marks and bumps on them, but the ride's not terrific. A lot of that probably comes down to the fact that it's got a really stiff structure to keep the weight of the car under control, because batteries are very heavy, and this is a pretty heavy car as well. So it is not necessarily the most comfortable ride in terms of, dealing with bumpy sections of road. If you live in a place where there are really bumpy sections of road, I would recommend taking it on your streets if you are going for a test drive, if you're not just going to buy one in advance. It is quiet though. It is an EV, so there isn't that much motor noise to contend with. You get the occasional bit of whine from the electric motor, but it's not noisy at all. And even on coarse chip roads, there's not too much tyre roar, which is good. A little bit of wind noise, but you don't really notice it that much. Being the rear-wheel drive base model, it's not the perkiest option you can get. Obviously, if you do really want to have a lot more power and torque, you need to spend the extra money and get the all-wheel drive version, which will give you extra traction in corners and stuff as well. So if that matters to you, you need to buy the all-wheel drive. But for those who are more focused on getting just long distance range and the ultimate in driving efficiency, then the base model is going to make a lot of sense to you. In terms of braking performance, the car does have regen braking, as you would expect, and it will pull up to a complete stop if you want it to. So it's got that single pedal driving mode. And if you don't want to use it that way, you've got paddle shifters to adjust the amount of regen response, and it's got a pretty natural brake feel in normal driving too. One thing I will say, having driven the top spec model with the digital camera mirrors and this base model that has the standard mirrors, I much prefer the standard mirrors. They just make things feel more natural, and that's what you're used to. And you might get used to those camera mirrors, but I actually find them really disconcerting and hard to figure out the depth perception aspect, especially when you're trying to do a reverse parallel park. There are little guidelines to help you park better, but I still find them a bit hard to get used to. If you're after a super efficient electric vehicle, the Ioniq 6 could be the right car for you, because the base model dynamic version has a claimed efficiency figure of 14.3 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. Now, for a bit of context, the most efficient Model 3 that you can buy has a claimed figure of 14.9. and it's super efficient. So this is a bit of a benchmark setter when it comes to EV efficiency. Now, if you don't understand electric vehicle efficiency, you just need to know that it's just like a petrol or diesel car. The lower the number, the better. So the less energy you're using to do 100 Ks of driving, the better it is. And if you're looking at the all-wheel drive version, it's a little bit higher, 16.9 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. It's got more weight to contend with, and obviously it has more power and torque, so it's not as efficient as this base model rear-wheel drive. If you're wondering what I've seen during this launch drive, and it's been mainly country road driving, so not necessarily indicative of what you might do with your EV, you can see the figures for the rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive models on your screen. And let me know what you think. Is that good enough? The Hyundai Ioniq 6 scored the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating against the 2022 criteria, so it's got heaps of safety technology as standard. That includes autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist and junction detection. There's lane keeping assistance, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and a rear AEB system which will brake for pedestrians or objects, which is nice to know. Every model comes with a surround view camera, and there's plenty of airbag coverage, including a front center airbag as well. But it does have a very annoying speed limit recognition system which beeps every time the speed sign changes, and that gets very frustrating. Just like most other brands, Hyundai offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and for the battery pack there's an 8-year 160,000k warranty. Service intervals are generous at 24 months or 30,000 kilometres. You'll see the prices for the first 2 services on your screen now. It's not necessarily cheap to maintain, but it's not a cheap car either. And if you do maintain your vehicle with Hyundai, you get roadside assistance forever if you continue to service it with them at least. So it's a pretty good ownership prospect. So there you have it, the Hyundai Ioniq 6, an intriguing electric sedan that is a great alternative for those who don't want a Tesla and don't want an SUV. But tell me your thoughts in the comments section below. Would you choose this or would you choose something completely different? I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, please do hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot, and I'll see you in the next video.